Ghosts, hauntings, and poltergeists.
I've not only experienced these things, I do believe in them.
The living dead, voices from beyond.
Dad. We walked over and we opened up the door, and right when we opened up the door, everything just came to a halt. It was one of the strangest things I've ever experienced.
Where do they come from? What do they want?
Most ghosts don't realize that they have passed on. And that's why I believe that they're here, kind of reliving their last moments on Earth.
Are they real or are they imaginary?
I think of it like being a TV screen. I think I can pick up channels.
The techniques, the technology. The high-tech search for the supernatural. Real ghost hunters. For as long as humans can remember, they've seen, felt, sensed the spirit world. There were strange forms, bizarre sounds, overpowering smells, and unexplained movements. In response, academics, scientists, and enthusiasts searched for tools and technology that would verify their senses. From divining rods to pendulums to Ouija boards.
They use everything from putting powder on the floor to see if the ghost would leave footprints behind, to setting up threads to see if the ghost would break through them.
Their research led to descriptions, theories, and 3 categories of ghostly phenomena: poltergeists, hauntings, and apparitions. In German, poltergeist means a noisy, mischievous ghost. Traditionally, they've been associated with abrupt sounds and unexplained movement of objects. Today, the source of the phenomena is believed not to be ghosts, but often an adolescent boy or girl with psychokinetic powers.
And they have an ability, which we all have to some degree, called psychokinesis, mind over matter, that is affecting these objects, that's moving them around. It's kind of like a psychic temper tantrum.
The second category, hauntings, have often been compared with a film loop. An event is replayed over and over in the specific location. The location appears to hold a memory of the event. It could be a car accident, a murder, or something as benign as a person walking up a staircase.
They might actually see a figure walking down a hallway, they might hear footsteps. But what will happen in these cases is these things are typically in a pattern. In other words, they'll happen again and again and again.
The last category, apparitions, are spirits or souls that remain although the body is left. This may be the most diverse category. What distinguishes them is that they have a consciousness. Apparitions interact with us.
You'd be dealing with something like a teleconference, where you talk to the TV and the TV talks back. It's the idea that some part of human personality, spirit, consciousness survives the death of the body and can communicate, sticks around, communicates.
Descriptions of these phenomena have become more and more accurate, but the source of them remained a mystery. And here's where contemporary ghost hunters hope that high technology will find answers. If there's one group in America that's pioneered ghost hunting and the use of high technology, it's the Midwest-based Ghost Research Society. Established more than 20 years ago, this dedicated team has set new standards for high-tech investigations.
I hope to prove here and other places that ghosts do exist, that there is something paranormal going on here.
The results of the Ghost Research Society's previous investigations have been extraordinary. They've uncovered a huge variety of floating orbs and light formations that Dale Kaczmarek believes are paranormal anomalies.
What are most interesting to me, I think, are the ones that really kind of change directions. They really defy gravity. They will float upwards. They will switch directions very quickly, change directions very rapidly. Very uncharacteristic of perhaps insects, dust particles, stray light sources, or anything else that these things might be. It very well might be spirit energy we're picking up. It's at least some form of residual energy. So again, these are things that we simply cannot explain right now at this point.
This time, the Ghost Research Society is at the North Chicago home of Danaka Faye. Danaka moved in 3 years ago. Soon after, she began seeing strange things out of the corner of her eyes. And then, one night, in her second-floor bedroom, she clearly experienced what ghost hunters would define as a classic haunting.
One night, it was really late night, early morning. I was sound asleep, and then all of a sudden I just woke up out of my sleep, and I look up, and standing in the doorway of my bedroom was just a figure. And I looked away, closed my eyes, looked back again, still standing there, and it was a man wearing like a dark blue uniform, and that started the whole thing.
That experience was followed by numerous other strange events. Objects moved, lights turned on and off, pets appeared to see things. And while Danaka slept, something grabbed her feet and screamed in her ear.
Some nights late at night it is a little spooky, because you just know someone else is in the room with you, and there's really nothing you can do about it. It's really hard because I haven't had any actual proof or anything like that, so some nights I just feel like I'm going crazy and just go back to bed, and other nights I'm like, okay, no, I know this really happened to me.
Dale and his team from the Ghost Research Society use a 3-step approach to their investigations. First, they comb the location with handheld sensing equipment. They use a negative ion detector to test for static electricity. An infrared non-contact thermometer gun for gauging temperature fluctuations. A Geiger counter to sense unusual variation. And one of ghost hunting's most popular tools, tri-field meter. It recognizes disturbances in electromagnetic fields.
Pick up anomalies in energy, in other words, electromagnetic fluxes. These can be caused sometimes by natural causes, but this specific device actually filters built in that will eliminate a lot of occurrences or naturally explained phenomena. Ghosts will produce some sort of electric disturbance at home. These devices will pick up these disturbances because the ghost or the ghost is due to the environment itself. We assume that ghosts can, in fact, energies, high concentration of electromagnetic and even field discharge in location, and that's why these devices are very important to us. Anomalies.
The ghost hunters will target 4 bedrooms where Danaka had strange experience. The ghost hunters look for unusual readings, locations they call hotspots.
Okay. Tri-field meter is really going crazy over in the other room over there. I don't know.
Yeah, in the back room, they're picking up a lot of high energy readings in the tri-field meter. Once we close off the entire upstairs, I mean, there should be not any noise except maybe a plane going overhead or maybe a car going by or something. But if we hear other things, you know, it's very sensitive. You can see it is picking up the sound of them walking up and down the stairs and so forth. So it is very sensitive.
The team then targets their array of sensors on these areas. Most important of all, they focus infrared-based night shot cameras on these hotspots.
Infrared has always been some area of the spectrum which has always fascinated me because of the use of infrared film. We use 35mm cameras sometimes using infrared film, and ghosts for some reason always seem to be in an infrared spectrum. We've gotten a lot of interesting photographs of spirits using infrared film. Using these night vision cameras, again, you're in an area where you can basically work undisturbed in a totally dark environment. And that's usually the type of the environment that ghosts prefer.
Contemporary night shot cameras are sensitive to a broad spectrum of light from visible to infrared. They amplify available light and often illuminate objects by casting their own beam of infrared light, a beam that's invisible to the human eye. Both the visible light and infrared light are captured by the camera and digitally converted to a viewable television image. With their equipment in place, Dale and his team wire everything to a bank of monitors and a computer on the ground floor in the kitchen. To lessen electrical interference, they turn off the fans, the air conditioner, all the upstairs lights, and watch and listen for unusual activity.
Are we ready, Dale?
Yep.
On this night, the temperature is a hot and muggy 85 degrees. The team could wait hours for nothing. They never know. After 50 minutes, there's still no activity.
Everybody's here. Sounds like something's moving around up there.
Then the truly unexpected happens.
I've been noticing that for the last couple of minutes here. No, there ain't nobody up there. You hear it right there, you can hear it shuffling.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Can you see that blind? You hear that?
Yeah, hear that? There's nothing moving.
There's no one up there, huh?
There's nothing moving. The blinds are not moving.
While everyone was focusing on the monitors looking for orbs, they've heard some unusual sounds. Sounds that are growing louder and louder.
What's that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's not normal noise.
Where's the dog? The dog's down here. The cat, where's the cat? Did you turn the tuning down?
Oh, you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it.
And that's definitely upstairs. That's not outside. It's too close. That sounds like it's right in the same room with
Yeah,
the
it does.
same room with the FM transmitter. That would be the north bedroom.
Something's walking around up there.
Yeah,
Moving things around. Look at that. You can see it on the scope.
right.
Dale and his team are clearly recording sounds of footsteps. Dale sends 2 team members upstairs to look for an explanation.
You hear anything up there?
While the team members move around upstairs, Dale can compare the sounds of their footsteps with the ghostly sounds they just recorded.
Walk around that room a little bit and shuffle your feet a little bit. Is that what it sounded like?
Yeah.
Sounds very similar.
Upstairs, the search has found no explanation for the sounds. A window in the room had been open, but there are no metal blinds there that could have caused the sound. Then, the orbs appear.
We just saw our first, looked like a glowy ball or globe of some kind in the number 2 camera, which is stationed across the from the washroom. It was on the floor, fairly short-lived, only a few seconds, but similar to ones we've seen in the past.
Over the next 45 minutes, 5 other orbs glide through the screen.
We just got another hit just right there too. So it comes from right to left, down. She comes in the room and goes straight down to her right side. So it goes up her leg. This one kind of floats up in this direction very slowly. There went one right there.
Saw one?
Yeah.
And that was in the...
Pretty bright one too.
8 hours later, Dale Kazmarek and the Ghost Research Society team have completed their investigation. The results are in, and the findings are extremely unusual.
Well, we found a lot of interesting things on the videotape, including strange lights and objects that floated through the screen. We also heard some strange sounds upstairs, including shuffling of feet, what appeared to be movements of objects or something. We heard like crashes and different types of sounds indicating there's something going on upstairs. I would assume that they may all be related in some way, that there may still be something here paranormally in the form of a spirit or a ghost.
Over the coming months, the Ghost Research Society will continue to investigate Danaka Faye's home. They'll look for a source for those sounds and these strange images. And that's okay with Danaka Faye. She's glad to have confirmation that what she's been experiencing is real, and surprisingly undisturbed at the thought of continuing to share her home with one or more ghosts.
No, the ghost doesn't need to go away. He can stay. He doesn't do anything, no harm, so as far as I'm concerned, I can live like this.
From our perspective, really, these haunted houses are a theater of the mind. That is, unconscious mental states are now out in the open.
For some ghost hunters, paranormal phenomena are external, outside forces caused by life after death. Dr. William Roll, a professor of parapsychology, and Andrew Nichols, director of the Florida Society for Parapsychological Research, have another explanation. They believe ghosts and ghostly phenomena are the projections of sensitive minds living in unique environments.
It's like dreams that are coming out in the open. Instead of being internal dream images, now they're out.
And it went like that, as if somebody was behind it pushing it, like if there was a resistance or something, and then it just scooted.
The perfect case in point is the incredible story of Doretta Johnson. Since 1987, when she moved into this Madison, Indiana home, Doretta and her family have been frequently threatened by poltergeists and apparitions.
Unexplained fires, rooms being wrecked, nobody been in them, glass breaking, dishes flying from the cabinets. Just, there was a long list of things that would happen.
After months of searching for explanations, Doretta sought the help of Dr. Roll. He got to know Doretta, he got to know the house. Now Dr. Nichols has joined the investigation.
You mentioned that there were poltergeist-type effects in this room. Objects would move. You had dishes that would come out. Which cabinets were they?
Mostly this one.
I see. And would they break when they came out?
Stuff would break. One situation, we had people over and we were standing talking, and they were getting ready to leave, and the cabinet doors flew open, and I had bread in there, which I always have bread, and the bag of bread opened, and bread just started flying out. And I got really irritated and kind of told it to stop. And when I yelled, because I was in the period of, it's like a child, and I yelled stop, and when I did, it was just weird because it stopped and then just fell, as if it had been ordered to stop.
How far away from the cabinet would these things fall? Were they falling, or did they have...
No, they were like projecting out,
they were actually
flying out of the bag.
Even more frightening than these bizarre poltergeist events are Doretta's terrifying visions. One of them occurred while taking a shower. As the water hit her face and neck, she smelled something putrid, fumes of something dead and decaying. Doretta then looked up, but instead of seeing her bathroom ceiling, she saw the sky.
And I smelled earth, just dirt. And I looked around, and I wasn't in the shower anymore. I was in a hole. I think I was in a grave. So, I mean, there was some electrical charge going on, but finally I almost fell out of the shower. And when I did, and I grabbed the towel, I looked down, there was blood on my legs. And there was claw marks on my legs. And they weren't painful, but they were there, and they were deep. And they were on my ankles and parts of my legs. Ron saw it.
Her husband Ron ran into the bathroom, threw back the shower curtain and pulled Doretta from the tub. There was blood oozing from her ankles.
And they were pretty good little cuts, you know. It was like, just like somebody took their hands and just took fingernails or just dug right in, and she was bleeding pretty good. I didn't know what to think when I saw that. It was, you know, I know all she had in there was wash rag, soap, and towel, basically. She didn't have anything else, really. Shampoo bottle. There was no razor, no scissors, no nothing.
Despite all of these experiences, Ron resisted believing anything unusual was happening. Then one day, Ron saw for himself when a psychic visited their home. The psychic asked to use their restroom. Suspicious of a trick, Ron followed him and waited in the hallway.
So I kind of stood there in the hallway and watched, and there was a shadow that stepped out of the wall and stood there in front of me, maybe 6 foot tall, totally dark. You couldn't see through it, but it looked like the torso of a man standing there. And he stood there maybe just a few seconds, but it seemed, forever. And he just took a step back into the wall, and I couldn't speak. I was trying to get Doretta. She had done seen it too.
My reaction was total elation. I yelled and jumped up and down because finally he saw something.
So what's causing this unusual activity? Both Dr. Roll and Dr. Nichols believe it's a combination of two unique factors: Doretta's sensitive mind and the exceptional electro and geomagnetic properties of Doretta's home, a home situated above an underground water stream and below the intersection of 3 sets of electrical power lines.
Our hypothesis is that the experiences that have been had in the house by Doretta and other members of the family really essentially is due to the, or is triggered by these fields.
To test their theory, Doctors Roll and Nichols want to examine the electromagnetic properties of the house. They'll try to connect them to Doretta's electrical conductivity and her brain activity. Dr. Nichols begins by taking measurements of the household energy levels. To do this, he uses a specially designed geomagnetic field meter and an electromagnetic field meter.
And the general question we're now exploring is whether this space, where there are such extreme electromagnetic and geomagnetic fields, if this space affects a person's, in particular Doretta's, physiology.
What I'm measuring now are the electromagnetic fields associated with household current and the high voltage power lines outside and so forth. There are 2 different types of magnetic fields that we measure: electromagnetic fields, which are generated by household current and high voltage power lines and that sort of thing, and then also geomagnetic fields generated by the Earth itself. That's what I'm looking for, is fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field that may correspond to areas where these events occurred.
What Dr. Nichols discovers is significant. A typical home's electromagnetic field level is 2 to 10 milligauss. Doretta's is 130 milligauss. A normal home's geomagnetic field level is 50 milligauss. Doretta's averages 440.
Anything over 10 milligauss is considered to be potentially harmful and could potentially trigger these types of effects, and we've got 131 milligauss in this room. This house, and the land that the house sits on, seems to be an electromagnetic hotspot. It is the location of very unusually high electromagnetic and geomagnetic fields, and these are the conditions that we find are particularly conducive to ghosts. Dr. Roll likes to refer to them as hatcheries for ghosts.
After measuring the electric and geomagnetic fields, Dr. Nichols progresses to Doretta's electrical conductivity. He attaches a sensor to her finger to measure Doretta's GSR, or galvanic skin response.
What GSR actually measures is the permeability of the skin to an electric current. It's skin resistance. And the lower it is, then the less resistance there is in the skin to an electric current.
Then, to examine Doretta's brain activity, he attaches electrodes that connect her to an electroencephalogram, a device which measures brain waves. They'll pay particular attention to her alpha waves, brain waves associated with psychokinetic powers.
240?
Yeah.
Doctors Roll and Nichols asked Doretta to place herself in a state of deep relaxation. Then, they wait and watch the computer monitor.
This is a standard EEG graph, and this is a spectrogram of her brain waves showing the bars in the frequency ranges that she's producing predominantly As she relaxes more, see there, she's starting to produce more down the lower end of the spectrum, which is the alpha, so more of a relaxed meditative state.
20 minutes later, the doctors gather the data. They find surprising and perhaps revealing results. A typical galvanic skin response is as much as 175. A relaxed person has a GSR of 80. Doretta's is 0.
I've never seen a human being that has a 0 GSR before, which means that you are a very, very good conductor. It may indeed be the key to her ability to focus these energies, channel these energies, because she's able to conduct electric fields through her body with virtually no resistance.
Also remarkable is Doretta's brain activity. The EEG has shown that Doretta has an exceptional ability to place herself into a relaxed state of mind.
She maintained a percentage of alpha that was much higher here, over 50% of the entire time that she was hooked up. She was in the alpha state. She was able to enter an altered state of consciousness very rapidly, which is indicative of the type of brain configuration that we find in people who are psychically sensitive.
The results suggest that there's a unique relationship between Doretta and her home, that her sensitive mind may be amplified by the unique properties of her environment, that Doretta may be actually projecting these bizarre events.
We can speculate that these fields bring on these states in the occupants, in particular in Doretta, and perhaps in this way facilitate her unusual experiences, her unusual access to the unconscious.
If someone said to me, you can go back to your old life and be the person you were, none of that would have ever happened to you. It could have just been a normal life, but you would be the person you were. Would you do it? I would live it all over again. I would go through every horrifying thing that ever happened. Not for my family. I would never want my family to go through it again. But for me, it was worth everything. I'm happier than I ever thought possible. And that came from the bad. I mean, sometimes you gotta walk a dark road to get to the light.
I got the neatest thing on your eyes. Oh, they're just shining back at me. Ooh, you're a demon.
When I was younger, I was kind of a weird kid, but I couldn't imagine myself out trolling around graveyards in the middle of the night with a tape recorder.
For most contemporary ghost hunters, seeing is believing. But for Chris Peterson and Nancy Kimball, hearing is believing. They're the founding members of the Utah Ghost Hunting Society. Their interests are apparitions and the ability to communicate with them through EVP, electronic voice phenomena, a recording technique that allows paranormal researchers to hear ghostly communications embedded in everyday sounds.
You didn't need to have everything, you know, lots of scientific knowledge or equipment to do it. You could just go out and anybody could do it. I mean, if it's there, let's prove it. Let's see if we can get it, and that's what we did.
Very peaceful place. Most of you at peace?
It's just really, it's exhilarating, it's exciting when you get really good contact.
Over the last few years, they've gone on hundreds of ghost hunts and come up with thousands of extraordinary EVP. One was at a Utah pioneer cemetery.
There's some sparkling on this headstone.
A lot of these people, families were buried together, and you'd see 4 or 5, 6 children that never made it to their first birthday, a lot of them that didn't make it to their first week of life. And I was saying how sad it was, as being a mother, how sad it would be to lose children, just one right after another. And we had a very sad voice of a woman that said, I am so sad.
At another cemetery, they spoke to a reluctant spirit that was looking for the headstone.
Just as I'd said, oh, come on now. We're not going to hurt you. To hear this little voice. It's just amazing to hear that there is somebody still around looking for something here in this life.
We'd love to find you stone.
I'd love to find me stone.
We'd love to find you stone.
And the interesting thing was, at that time, they were changing all of the headstones from the upright headstones to the ones that were on the ground, because it's easier to mow the lawns. So obviously this poor soul had missed his stone. Didn't know where it was.
We'd love to find you stone.
Another time they met a spirit with a sense of humour.
We had taken some people out that was doing an interview with us and wanted to go out, and a policeman stopped by the cars and started with his light. And we get this woman's voice that said, "Busted." So apparently they realized that there are police around. Busted, busted. She just said, "Busted."
Busted, busted.
And sometimes the spirits were threatening.
We hear all different kinds of things. Sometimes we hear, whatever you want to say they are, angry, obnoxious. They don't want you there. They want you out. And then generally when we get that answer, we get somebody saying, "Go away, get out, leave us alone." Or sometimes we just get these horrible growls.
Tonight, Chris and Nancy have a new challenge before them. They've travelled from Utah to California. They're about 9 miles south of San Francisco in a coastal town called Brookdale. Their destination, the Brookdale Lodge. The lodge is owned by Leanne and Bill Gilbert and their daughter Jennifer. Jennifer often sees ghosts.
I'm used to it. I almost it's a protection. I feel like there's protecting me. There's always been the same signs of a little girl. Kids are running, and the sound of feet running. I look out to see her. There's absolutely no. I've seen a little girl running top level just disappear.
Built in the early days, the Brookdale celebrated Prohibition era for the bootleg and the unique the design actual flowing through the dining room. Celebrities Crawford, Tyrone Power and Marilyn Monroe. Over the years though, the lodge fell on hard times. There was a fire and a flood. In 1984 it closed. In 1990, the Gilberts, along with their daughter Jennifer, purchased it. They knew about the lodge's ghostly history, especially the stories of a little girl ghost named Sarah who drowned in the brook. They also heard reports of a ghost in the pool area. A lifeguard confirmed the stories.
And she was inside the pool, and I guess she was closing up, and she heard a big splash. She looked all on the bottom of the pool. She thought maybe someone was at the bottom. There was nobody there. There was a ripples in the pool. Something had definitely dove in. She was pretty shook up about it. And she came down here and we kind of laughed it off and said, "Oh, it's just one of the ghosts. You just have to get used to it."
At the Brookdale, it hasn't been only what people see, it's also what people hear. Late one night, Jennifer and bartender Ellen Galboa were closing up. While clearing glasses and putting away chairs, they heard the sound of a party in the adjacent Brook Room, complete with old-time dance music.
It was totally weird. It was scary too, because we thought that it was a bunch of kids with stereo or something, you know, broken into there.
We walked over and we opened up the door, and right when we opened up the door, everything just came to a halt. It was one of the strangest things I've ever experienced.
Brookdale Lodge in California. We just want to say hello. Is there anyone that would like to speak to us? Is there more than one person here?
Can we invite you to speak with us tonight?
Armed with an audio cassette recorder and external microphone, Nancy and Chris are in search of EVP and evidence of ghosts at the Brookdale Lodge.
We would invite you to speak, but you will have to speak so that we can hear you.
Their recording technique is basic. They ask questions and pause, waiting for responses. Responses that, at this point, are inaudible to human ears.
We know that there's been someone here. We'd love to hear from you. Can you give us a name? Can you tell us why you're still here? Is this a room you like to be in? We wish you the best. Thank you.
Well, we'll have to record it into the drive and see if we can clean it up, and we'll see.
Okay. Let's do it.
The next morning, Chris and Nancy take their recordings into a remote audio laboratory that they've set up in the back offices of the Brookdale Lodge.
Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to record a section of the tape that we made last night to the hard drive.
They load their recordings into the computer, looking for what is known as ELF, extremely low frequency voice recordings. Human voices are normally heard in the sound frequency range from 300 to 3000 hertz. ELFs are found in a lower range, from 1 to 300 hertz.
That's a physical impossibility for the human voice. It's not somebody walking around off camera calling things out.
With the aid of audio editing software, Chris searches the tape for sounds in the ELF range, sound that might be voices. Once he finds a section, he uses the computer sound editor to filter, amplify, compress, and stretch the sound.
It's EVP 12.81 hertz.
Ah, great.
It's too low to be a human voice.
We got it.
This part right here is probably the sound of the river. That's here. Okay, what we're actually looking at on this scale is the highlighted section right here. So this is the very first part, and as you go through, you have the rest of the sound bite right here.
It sounds like a little girl's voice.
Nancy and Chris appear to have recorded an EVP of a little girl. Could it be the voice of Sarah? But this is only the beginning. 3 weeks later, Nancy and Chris complete their analysis of the Brookdale Lodge. They post a dozen new EVPs on their website, including a strange howl. A man's voice saying, "Come over here," and a woman's voice saying, "Help me." Though the meaning of these statements is still obscure, it seems clear to Nancy and Chris that there's a little girl spirit that is trying to speak to them.
It's kind of sad that some people choose to stay and talk with us instead of moving on. I guess they have a religious belief that there is something more, and it's just basically saying, yes, here's the proof that we have that it does go on.
One of the ladies had a child with her, a little boy who was 3 years old, and he broke away from his mother and ran out into the hall, started up the stairway. By the time she caught up with him, he was already coming back down. He said, "I don't want to go up the stairs. There's a ghost up there."
It would be like someone broke the bottle, and it would go on all day, and I was picking things up on my desk, trying to find out where it was coming from.
I was concentrating on shelving books. I had longer hair then, and I was wearing long, dangly beaded earrings, and I felt someone come up and pull my hair back. And I thought, oh, they're looking at my pretty new earrings, and so I turned to see who it was, and there wasn't anybody there.
They call her the Lady in Grey, and for more than 60 years now she's been haunting Evansville, Indiana's Willard Library. The first sighting was in 1937, when a night cleaner was in the basement firing up the furnace.
One night he went through into the unlocked portion to stoke the furnace at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and he dropped his flashlight, raised up after he dropped the flashlight, and he saw this form in gray veil, long gray dress, and it just melted away before his eyes.
Also, the ghost has often been sensed in the children's room. Librarian Ann Wells remembers her first encounter with the Lady in Grey on Halloween Day in 1990.
Noticed a fragrance, a strong smoky fragrance, something like incense. And when I would step 2 steps away, it would be completely gone. And then I'd come back to that area and it'd be very strong. And it didn't dissipate slowly like an aroma does that lingers. This was like turning a light on or off.
Okay.
Today, though, a new technology will enter the halls of Willard Library. Paranormal investigators hope to prove haunted locations like the Willard Library have a unique electromagnetic signature. A signature that haunted locations everywhere may share.
Okay, are they all hooked up?
Paranormal investigator Tim Hart heads the team working with an experimental technology called MESA.
The purpose of MESA is to look at electromagnetic fields, the whole electromagnetic spectrum, and see if there are differences from haunted places to non-haunted places.
MESA stands for Multi-Energy Sensor Array. Using 8 different sensors, it measures light from infrared to ultraviolet. It measures vibrations and electromagnetic fields and static electromagnetic fields. At the Willard Library, Tim and his team plan to target 2 areas where the Lady in Grey has been seen most often. The first is the children's reading room, and the second is the basement hallway, near where the furnace used to stand.
I would say the one hypothesis I do have is that at haunted places, there are rapid, sometimes wild fluctuations.
Soon, MESA has recorded its data. Tim and crew prepare to print the charts.
Sensor type for channel 1. Which was that?
IR.
That was infrared?
Infrared.
Okay. Okay. What was the pull up for channel 1? The IR sensor for basement?
Basement hall or storage pit?
Basement.
Basement hall.
Basement hall?
Yeah.
They're both on 100.
Okay, so I want 100K.
His first few reports are unexceptional.
There is some changes, but I wouldn't say they're real drastic. That's kind of normal.
Oh, wow. Wow, look at that one.
Then, on the north-south electromagnetic sensor, they get some extraordinary data.
Yeah, and this one, which looks very interesting to me.
Whoa.
A lot different.
That one's...
That's really super interesting.
It's, let's see.
Because that, there's...
It goes to like -4 or -3 up to...
That would have taken
It goes from 4 and then down to -3.
That one's kind of interesting.
The earmark of something that's a legitimate fluctuation in the magnetic field is when it's both sides of the axis, when it's not drifting one way or the other.
When it goes up and then down negative as well.
That's what we're seeing here, and that occurred at 0.1 hour, which is about 6 or 7 minutes.
That's where we get the most interesting results.
The team has found unusual electromagnetic fluctuations in the children's reading room.
That's a pretty big fluctuation. Yeah. People could probably still sense a jump like that in an Earth field, and they may interpret that, differently. I mean, everybody's different, but they may, sense something. Could be the sense presence we've talked about, or maybe an apparition, or a touch on the shoulder or something like that.
The team finds even greater fluctuations in the basement near where the old furnace used to be.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's even a bigger deal than the first one.
It's the same exact orientation that we got on the other one, with a big fluctuation.
Yeah.
Tim and his team have shown a genuine connection between physical phenomena and ghostly phenomena. The lady in grey can actually be correlated to physical data. With the evidence from the Willard Library, Mesa may be well on its way to defining a measurable signature for ghostly phenomena anywhere in the world. And the staff of the library may have proof of a ghost many of them knew was real.
I feel like I'm the visitor. This is her space, and she is allowing me to work here, and somehow I think she approves of my work. We work very hard to make children love reading, and she approves of that. She allows us to do that. This is her spot. We're visiting.
I don't mind her being here, as long as she doesn't scare me, and she never has. We like the legend. We like having her here.
Are ghosts truly the spirits of people who once walked the earth? Are they projections of what's already in our minds? Are they trying to communicate with us, or are they just the stuff of fantasy? The answer is still unknown. It's clear, though, that each year our fascination increases and our ghost hunting tools improve. And someday, our age may be considered the very dawn of ghost hunting.
It would be naive for us to think that this short space of time that we live on Earth is our total existence. There must be something beyond this time.
It's natural. And that's the one thing I want to prove, that it's not supernatural, it's just part of our world.
The draw is a great mystery. It's learning something you have a curiosity about. And people have a curiosity about the unknown. We also fear the unknown. And so what we fear, we want to know about. It's how science has continually progressed. It's a mystery to be solved.
Charlie? Charlie, is that you?